This is Sox in 7.
Welcome back to Sox in 7. I'm your host, Kevin Tebo, breaking down this Blue Jays series versus Sox. Unfortunately, the Blue Jays took 2 out of 3, but the Sox were able to take the last game, so happy flight at least. Game 1 we already kind of talked about last episode. Kevin Gausman just absolutely diced. But that brings us to Game 2, just an absolute heartbreaker. Blue Jays get out to an early lead off Michael Wacha. He didn't pitch terrible, didn't pitch great. Command was definitely off. But then Robbie Refsynder just goes off. He gets a ground out RBI to get back 1. And then later in the game, he hits a 2-run shot to tie the game. Dead center. Beautiful thing. Loved to see it. And then the bullpen was nails. Brazier came in, had a good inning, and then questionable move by Cora putting in Schreiber in very early, put him in the 7th, and he obviously had a shutdown inning. And then in the 8th, Vasquez gets you up a run. Clutch hitter Vasquez has become. I mean, it's insane. But then in the bottom of the 8th, that's when Danish shoved. And then you bring Danish back in for the bottom of the 9th, and it's just like, okay, you're going to push Danish but not Schreiber. Danish walks the first 2 guys, and then Cora puts in Robles instead of Strom. And Robles, to his credit, he made 2 good pitches, but 2 dribblers that got through, you lose that game, it stinks. You should have won that game. And the reason why you should have won that game is because you should have had Tanner Houck, your closer. But because of his decision, and I respect his decision not to get the vaccine, he couldn't be with his team, and he had to sit there and watch his team lose because he wasn't able to go out based on a personal decision. And I think he's a competitor, and I think he's sitting there watching his team lose, knowing he could have done something to stop it. I think the true competitor in him is going to be rethinking his decision, and I think, come September, Tanner Houck might be in Toronto. That's just my guess, and the same thing goes for Jarren Duran, because the offense definitely looks stagnant for the beginning of this series without Duran in that top of the spot. But yeah, that'll bring us to Game 2. Nicholas Pivetta doing his thing as always, going against number 1 or number 2 ERA in Alec Manoah, and Nicky P tosses 6, only 2 earned, while Alec had 3 earned. And you could tell Nicholas didn't have his A stuff today, but he still went out there, grinded out a good performance. And in the 3rd inning, he accidentally hit their catcher, Alejandro Kirk. And Vladdy comes out of the dugout acting like he did it on purpose. And Rafi's right there to greet him. He's like, what are you doing? Like, do you know who that guy is on the mound? That's Nicholas Pivetta. You don't want to fire that guy up. And ever since that part, Nicky P obviously yells back, shut the fuck up to Vladdy. And then he shoves for the rest of the game. And he kind of fired him up and got his focus back on the game and held it down. And then another crazy move from Cora, putting in Schreiber very early. And so I was like, okay, well, at least you got Strom. He hasn't pitched in a couple of days. So I guess you can push him for 2, and he doesn't do it again. And then you have Brazier come in the 8th inning, and he obviously blows the lead, and you're just like, Jesus. But Alex Verdugo had a day. He hits a 2-run bomb, gives you the lead. You're down 1. And then later on in the 10th after Strom comes in, shuts down the 9th after Brazier blew the lead, and he hits a double in the gap with 2 outs and makes the game 6-3. And things are looking good, but then you have Strom coming back out there for the bottom of the 10th, and he throws 40 pitches, lets up 2 runs, and narrowly escapes with the win. And we're happy to get out of here with the win because we still hold that top wild card spot. But geez, the Red Sox made it interesting, and there's some issues that need addressing, and that goes back to Tanner Houck and his vaccination status. But that'll do it for this series. Now we're going to look ahead to a very sweepable series against the Chicago Cubs. The Sox are going to Wrigley. Game 1, you got Rich Hill versus Adrian Sampson. Should be a very interesting game. Hope Rich Hill can keep it going. And then you got Josh Winkowski versus Alec Mills. Same thing. Ever since Josh Winkowski's gotten called back up, he's been pitching well. And then Connor Siebold versus Keegan Thompson in Game 3. So the Red Sox offense is definitely going to have to do some work here. You got Rich Hill, who's normally about 3 runs, sometimes more. And then you got 2 rookies. So the Sox offense needs to wake up, because this past game, the big 3 had 1 hit in about 12 at-bats. Can't have it, won't have it. Need better from those guys. But Verdugo stays hot, and you love to see that. But Tanner Houck and Chaim Bloom need to make a decision what they're going to do in this bullpen, because if the season ended today, you're playing Toronto in the playoffs, and you're going to have to go there at least once. So you need to figure that out, or we're going to be SOL when October comes around. But good to take one at least. Keep the boys moving. Go sweep the Cubs. We'll see you here on Saturday night.